Today on StampTV, I'm going to show you a fun card project featuring one of our brand new stamp set duos called I Appreciate You. Let me show you the tools and products you're going to need to do this card project. First, you're going to need some stamps, and this is one of our brand new stamp set duos that are our incentive stamps. This is the I Appreciate You stamp set duo, and it's got this beautiful tree and then the greeting that says I appreciate you. And you'll notice that our incentive stamps are made of red rubber. They're pre-cut for you, and they're already mounted on cling cushion and ready to use with your acrylic blocks. Then you're also going to need some cardstock, and the cardstock that I'm using today is some of the Gina Designs dark chocolate, some of our ivory cardstock, and our honey mustard. And then I also have two of our vintage cuts here. This is the ivory fancy frame, one of the fancy frames from the fancy frame set, and then this is one of the ivory ovals. Then you're going to need some 1/4-inch pop dots, some ribbon, and I've chosen the fresh asparagus double-stitched ribbon, and this is the 3/8 of an inch width. You're also going to need some ink, and I have 3 Gina Designs ink pads here. I'm going to use black onyx, warm cocoa, and faded brick. And along with that, I'm going to use some of the Memento tuxedo black because I'm going to be coloring using some of the Spectrum Noir markers. You're also going to need some markers. Now, you can use any kind of markers to do this. You don't have to use alcohol markers. You can use water-based markers, or you can use Bic markers, any kind of markers you want, Copic markers. But I've chosen to use the Spectrum Noir ones. I really like these, and I like the way they come. Let me show you what I'm going to use here first. I'm going to use DG4, CG2, EB5, and BT1. Now, as an example, I want to show you how these markers come. Here is a set of markers. These are a set of 6 markers, and these are the browns. Now, what I like about these markers is you can do all of the same techniques that you can do with Copic markers. You can also get nice solid coloring like you can with a water-based marker. And these markers actually are less expensive than most water-based markers. This whole pack of 6 retails for $11.95, so that's like $2, a little less than $2 a marker for alcohol markers that you could do all these techniques with. So that's why I've decided to start working with the Spectrum Noir markers. I find the quality to be amazing, and I also find it to be very affordable for those of you who aren't already invested in another type of marker and would like to get started but are on a budget. Okay, so let's start out making a background. I'm going to grab a scrap piece of paper here, and then I'm going to grab this honey mustard cardstock. What I'm going to do is a little bit of wood graining, and I'm going to start with this honey mustard cardstock and some of the warm cocoa ink. And using a direct-to-paper technique, I'm just going to run this ink down the surface of this piece of honey mustard. And you can see this already has the feel of wood with those little panels, the little lines that came through. Now, my next step is going to be to use some kind of scoring tool. I'm using the Scor-buddy. You can use any kind of scoring tool that you have. You may want to use the Scor-pal or one of the other scoring tools that are on the market. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to score lines every 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to start right here at this first 1/4 of an inch. And then you can see I'm just kind of going through, hitting it at every 1/4 of an inch mark. I think I'm going off track a little bit there, but you get the idea. I'm going all the way down, 1/4 of an inch at a time. And you can't really see these lines yet, but when I add my next color, you'll be able to see them. And there's my little mess up there. I don't know if you can see that, so that'll maybe look like a cracked board. We'll see how it turns out. Okay, So I'm going to grab that scrap piece of paper again. Now I'm going to add another color this time, and I generally don't do this. I haven't done this before, but I tried it today, and it was so much fun that I wanted to share it with you. So I'm going to grab some of the faded brick ink, and now I'm going to add that on top. And that gives it more of almost like a redwood feel. And you can see now that the lines are showing better, but they're not honey mustard lines, like a plain yellow gold line. They actually look like unstained wood in between. So that's a fun new way to do wood graining and make it look a lot like real wood. Next, I'm going to use this oval vintage cut, and I'm going to grab this tree stamp and ink it up using some of the Memento ink. Now, I know a lot of you really like the Gina K Designs ink for alcohol markers, but a lot of you still like the Memento, so I'm going to continue to work with that. Alright, so there's my image. Now I'm going to start with the lightest green that I have here is the CG2. And when you use the Spectrum Noir markers, you're going to find that it has two ends. It has a chisel end on one side, and it has a bullet tip on the other side. And you guys know how much I love the bullet tip markers. I had the entire Copic collection, the original markers that had the bullet tip. But what Spectrum Noir has done is they also offer replacement tips in a brush tip style. So if you like the bullet tip but you don't want the chisel, you can replace the chisel side with a brush tip, or maybe you like the chisel and you want to replace this tip. They allow you to replace the tips, and then you can have a brush tip if you prefer that. But I do really like these bullet tips for these small images. I'm going to start by coloring all of these leaves using this CG2. Another thing that's kind of neat about these markers is they don't have color names, so it's very easy to be able to tell what colors go together. It's a number system, and it's simple. It goes from 1 to however high up the markers go. So you know if you're using a CG1, you're using the lightest CG green. If you're using a 4, it's going to be a darker green. If you're using a 1 and a 2, they're going to blend easily because they're right next to each other on the spectrum from light to dark. So these are really fun markers and very, very user-friendly. You get all the same great blending techniques that you do with any other alcohol marker, but they're quite of value. And we are going to be carrying these in our store. And I'll tell you a lot more about them when they come into stock, about the different ways that you can purchase them. Okay, so now all of my leaves are colored in. And now I'm going to do a fun little technique that I had tried earlier today, and I thought that this was really fun too, so I want to show this to you. This marker is the DG4 marker, so it's a darker green. And what I'm going to do is, instead of blending, I'm just going to polka dot each one of these leaves. Just dab on a couple little dots on each leaf. This is such a fun, cute little whimsical look. And it's really easy to do. Of course, you don't have to do this with alcohol markers. But if you do, because the alcohol markers stay a little bit wet, the dots kind of fuzz out and spread out a little bit, which is a really cute look. And this is also fun to do if you have some of our Darling Diva stamps and you want to color in the clothes and you want to give a little bit of texture to add some polka dots. Is really fun to do. And again, they soften up a lot because I'm using an alcohol-based marker rather than a water-based. You can put as many dots on as you want. There we go. So there is, I'm going to add one more right here. There is my tree with little polka dot leaves. Now next I'm going to use this brown. This is the EB5 marker, and again I'm going to use the bullet tip. And right here on the marker it shows you that this is the bullet tip side and this is the chisel side. And then it's got these little rubber grips that make it very comfortable for you to hold. And this hexagon shape is actually very ergonomic. You'll like the way that feels in your hand. So this I'm just going to color straight with no shading at all. I just want a nice solid brown. And I am coloring this on our ivory cardstock, so of course we're going to get bleeding on the other side, which isn't a problem because it's not a single layer card. But if you want to use alcohol markers on a single layer card, try our heavy base weight white cardstock because you get no bleeding and you can color as much as you want on the front without it coming through the other side. And you'll see what I mean here, how it bleeds through. Okay, so now I have one more marker here. This is the BT1. And what I want to do with this marker is I want to add a little highlight around the outside of the tree. And this is a fun way to do it. I'm just going around the perimeter here. And it just kind of makes the whole image glow. It's not very drastic. And you can do this with any of the real light colors. So maybe if this aqua blue isn't for you, you might want to try a real soft lilac or a real pale pastel pink. And then if you want something even more neutral, you can go with one of the real light grays or real light tans. So lots of fun ways to highlight and explore with alcohol markers. Almost done here. I am going to add a little bit of that shading on the inside too. Right in here. Just kind of going around. And leaving that little bit of white or ivory space in there is also nice, so you don't have to color it all in. There we go. So that just gives it a little bit of a glow. And I don't know how clear that is on the camera, but you're going to be able to see that a lot better in the photograph that's underneath the screen at StampTV. Okay, so now we have this little tree, and it's time to assemble our card. So my next step is going to be to grab that redwood pattern paper here that I made, and I'm going to adhere that to the top of this piece of ivory cardstock. And that looks so nice. And now I'm going to add a little bit of this ribbon across the bottom just to kind of cover up that edge. I don't need very much. And with the thinner ribbons, sometimes I like to just put tape right across the whole strip of ribbon, and then it really stays down tight. It's very easy to manage. All right, so there we go, like that. And then flip that around the back. Okay. So there is I Appreciate You. And then, of course, this whole thing is going to go on top of my dark chocolate card base. And a little bit of tape over that ribbon to make sure it doesn't come up. Oops. Throwing things all around on my desk today. Okay. And there we go. So now I'm going to grab that other vintage cut, the fancy frame, and I'm going to adhere this first to the card base. Make sure that that's nice and centered. I love these vintage cuts. They're so pretty. It's so easy because they're all ready for you. And then I'm going to use some of the 1/4" pop dots because this is not a different color. This is ivory as well, but I do want it to have a little bit of dimension. So we'll just put 4 of these on. And we will pop that right on top. And there is my finished card project. I really like these warm neutral tones, and I think this card would make a great Father's Day card. But you can also jazz it up a little bit with flower stamps and put flowers on the trees and make this a feminine card for any of the ladies in your life as well.